Yeah, I grew up in Laois, Port Laois, the Dublin Road. You were 50 miles from Dublin, and across the road was the prison. That was your landscape, and across the road from the prison was the mental asylum. I was just lucky enough now when free education came in to be able to slip into the College of Art and pursue there, you know. So, and the rest is history, as to say. Well, my first solo show was in the Project Art Centre. I think that was 1983 or 4. I worked in big timbers, you know, and I had no studio that could accommodate that. So I was up in O'Toole's fish farm out in the fields, carving with a chainsaw and all this. And it was mad. I was young enough to be mad enough and strong enough. So I did that. You know, Temple Bar was brilliant for a young artist. You were just in the middle of it all, and there was everybody around you was buzzing. Everything was happening. But we had the sculpture studio, painting studio, the exhibition spaces. And I was so inspired by it, you know, on the street. I loved it. And then it turned into the film set, and I thought, you know, something, it's time to move on. You need to be out. You need space. God, it was beginning of the 90s, so we're talking 92, 3, and I'm going around saying, I was doing a project in Laois in Mount Rath, and the art teacher, Zita McGrath, said, why are you always looking at these old farmhouses? I said, I don't know, I have this hankering to get to the countryside and work from there. She says, oh, if you want a farmhouse, my aunt has one up in the asshole of nowhere. And then we got our little place here. Having looked back, it's gorgeous, brilliant, love it. And Leitrim was taken off for the art scene, and that was just timely. And I was thinking last night how much luck and timing you need in life, you know. You know, you could be lost somewhere and couldn't have been in a better spot, you know. My work was always figurative based, you know. And I use it as a vector to bring out my own emotions and thoughts. So Temple Bar, figurative based for sure, figurative. And I thought I'd be moving on to some big abstract forms. Never. I never ran out of what it was doing for me. So I kept going. This is all sticks. I found this by the lake. So it's beautifully honed down like flesh. And this is a branch from the garden. And then I love these little ones you bring in, and they're like, you see, I would go from picking up bits of sticks to doing bronze to carving out of a tree that's fallen. And my last show was based on after the storm, loads of trees fell in the garden. I started dragging a few bits down and working, you know, using that as, and then working into the sculptures, because I had been doing these support things within them that were kind of, for me, representing certain interior emotions, but nothing specific. Like you wouldn't write a thesis on it because you'd be making it up. It's physical, it's difficult, and if you haven't done it before, it's a process and it's all this. They were challenged with age and age issues. They kind of were the kind of people that got on with life and enjoyed life. So that's why they were there. They were open to the human encounter. So there's a very simple way. If you use the human form parts of it, and which we did, we started using hands. People thought hands express so much about their life. We did that. We took casts of the hands, and you can use this algae, which is like a seaweed jelly. So we cast loads and loads of hands, and we'll begin to look a bit morbid. How will we develop a story here that means something to you and to me? You get to a certain age and you're not shy about saying what's important, and you say, well, really at this point, what's important is friendship. It's the human story, the human encounter and all that. The landscape has to have an effect, but I don't dwell too much on it because the landscape is amazing. Like I'm looking out here at Loch Allen, and that's the Shannon River. Now that is amazing to have that power beneath you. You feel like you could be walking across here and it could be 500 years ago, it could be 1,000 years ago. It hasn't changed that much.
My mother and father were all from Donegal, and I came over 12 years ago for a career break, and I was at a busy job. I was managing a department and stuff, so it was, and in lots of ways, it's a welcome career break, and I didn't go back. We purchased a house here. It was next to my mum. We were both side by side. As time went on, I connected with lots of people in the community, and then I went into the schools, and I said I was able, and I got my first teaching job in Drumshanbo School. Through the teaching, I realised that there's perhaps a big gap in having opportunities for young people to learn skills of sculpture and painting, drawing, all the fine arts and design. And I found myself looking to introduce that, and particularly in this area in Ballinamore, there wasn't really a lot of art in the area, so I was looking for an art school, and it was something that I'd always dreamed about as a teacher. And when I was in Scotland, I was teaching portfolio and working with the Glasgow School of Art and all the kind of thing, so it was kind of natural to me to be in an environment where all of that was available, and I'd see the benefits that it had to all age groups. So the art school kind of evolved from there, and I then decided that I gave up my post in Scotland, and I decided that I was going to make the big break here. I'm happy with that. I find a lot of people in Leitrim would live in isolation, and it's the social aspect of coming in and mixing and learning new skills. And for me, that's important, to make it a really homely environment, that they feel safe and they want to be creative. Like today, we're working with families, and some of the children have autism, and it's just having that safe place where they can come and feel welcomed, feeling that, God, I can take these things I've learned here and do something with them. Today we're focusing on making Christmas cards, but more being creative in terms of using a lot of the craft papers and embellishments and things that they can cut out, upcycling all wallpaper, and get them to think about things they can use in the environmental things that can be wasted but can be transformed into something. This is our second year here in Ballinamore, and we initially we're very much part of the community. I live not far from here, so I knew building that relationship up in the town and people getting to know us. So we've found now that a lot of groups, the local groups come, like the men's shed and the hen sheds, and we get lots of people dropping in. We have 4-year-olds to 80-year-olds who come through the door. It's been a lovely journey. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I can't really fault the support I've had from so many people around me, and I think I like to give my job, but I've had a lot of great people who have given me lots of encouragement, and I wonder, obviously, that's pushed me on. I think I've really got to give a lot of credit to my husband Michael. We both are. Michael would have come from a very good business world and been very good at the background, and really he has what makes this school tick so well is the fact that this partnership that we have. Michael would be very good at all the business side of everything, and I can come up with all the frontline creative side, and we just work in harmony together. But we built this art school purely by sheer determination of every time we were making money, we were pumping money back in, and everything that we have is our own, and that's been good. But I think it's kind of evolved more into working more with public bodies now, and good support from people like Leitrim County Council and the arts, and we're doing a lot of things now with community groups that we wouldn't have done prior to a few years ago. And it's nice at our stage, because neither of us are thinking of retiring. We just have this love of what we do, and we go up every day and think, right, we'll go to the happy place.
Very first thing that we did, we met in the Flourished Cafe in Manorhamilton in July 2022, and there were 4 of us. We were all looking for a studio, and we all had kind of similar interests in our practices.
Vital to all of us was finding a studio building to work in, but by chance this one came up.
I joined later, only this spring. I was invited to join the collective. We all are very conscious of how we live anyway, I think, and that also comes through in our art practices.
I work with whatever needs to tell the story. Everybody wears clothing, and so a lot of the storytelling is kind of bound up with that somehow.
So I'm a visual artist and I work mostly with painting, but I also make animations, collage, sculpture. I'm local to Manorhamilton. I've always lived with the presence of bamboo. The landscape's always been very important to me, both in my individual practice and in our collective work.
I think it's a beautiful mountain. It is very present when you're in Manorhamilton itself. You see it constantly changing as well through the seasons, through the day, how the light catches it.
We started out working on a project collaborating with and building a relationship with Benbow Mountain, which is the mountain that overlooks Manorhamilton. We decided to build a series of rituals inspired by the Irish wake to kind of respond to the potential loss and the grievability of something that we could potentially lose. And then that led on to kind of a follow-on series of events, one where we kind of worked on sort of animating that space and building a ritual, which happened last year. Off the back of that, we applied for an exhibition in the dock and were invited to come down this year.
Fairly early on, after being up on Benbow and looking at plants and things that had grown in that area, we were looking at animating some of the work we'd done in the initial project by making a banner to make 3 costumes that would accompany the banner on a walk around Manorhamilton. And with that, we settled on using flag iris, which has kind of remarkable properties as it can be sort of woven and taken into many different shapes, but also interestingly it's sort of fallen out of use. It was once such a sort of valuable resource and is now viewed as a major kind of weed.
When we started, we were looking at solastalgia and the idea of losing a place that you love and recognising its grievability or its potential loss. So we were looking at old wake traditions and giving the item or the presence the respect of the potential loss. And then by tending the meadows, each are little meadows, and kind of tending together, we have understood waking as the waking up as well as the potential loss.
The title of this exhibition is Waking the Land, and it's just really nice to step out of the house and walk and engage with just all the life that is going on there.
The work that we do together complements my individual practice but is very different. I've learned a lot of new skills. We've learned how to work with natural dyes. We are very supportive of each other. If one person has an exhibition, everyone else will show up to support each other. When we meet up, we usually start with a check-in, so each person very briefly says where they're at. We all listen to each other and we share food, so we discuss things over food as well, which is really important, to share food together.
Well, I was in college back in the day and I did philosophy and sociology because I liked reading and arguing. But then I discovered there's no jobs for reading and arguing. And I'd done some theatre in school and that kind of thing. So I ended up working with the Focus Theatre, Deirdre O'Connell in the Focus Theatre. I was doing stage management, I was doing lights and sound. So I ended up watching an awful lot of theatre. And as I was watching and I'd see 50 performances of a show, I just said, I'm going to try this. So I got up on the stage into the classes and started doing it, and it's been up and downhill ever since. Really, so it has.
Well done, a brakes job, Jerry.
What the fuck are you doing following me?
Look, I'm going to write about it, so you might as well talk to me.
I don't give a bollocks what you write. You know, I've forgotten my manners. You've been to my home. Maybe it's about fucking time I visit yours.
Then I started into I got into television. I did Nighthawks back in the day. I was in Glenroe. My character, Ray O'Driscoll, I killed my brother with a shovel. My last line in Glenroe was, "I think I killed him, Mammy." We moved to Leitrim, and just as I moved to Leitrim, I got a job in Fair City. So I was up and down, up and down, up and down. So I was in Fair City for about 3 or 4 years, which was brilliant.
I am Cuneyard, Alderman of Kent. I give you my oath.
Vikings Valhalla was the recent. I had a good run in that. That happened during COVID, which was great because there was no work.
And return to your shire and your wife, if she will take you.
I've also done a great TV show on Netflix called Bodkin.
I'm not a superstitious man. But fuck me if I'm not staring at the ghost of a dead fucking badger.
It was quiet for a few years, and so I ended up doing drama clubs for young people, and I do an awful lot of work with young people now. I do about 100 days a year in schools with transition years. We do public speaking, confidence, social skills. Essentially, I say to them, how do you make people listen to you?
Does it still make you purr?
Ben.
Yes.
If you don't remove your hand, I'm going to break those fingers off and shove them up your arse.
You know, if you have to stand in front of a group of people, whether it's an interview or an audience, how do you make people listen to you? So it's a kind of I call it edutainment. I entertain, and they hopefully learn something along the line. So
inform in moving how, express in admirable, in action how like an angel.
And then I was also in Boston with the young people again. We made a little film. We filmed in 4 hours, edited in 4 hours, wrote in 4 hours, on the streets of Boston, just kind of guerrilla filmmaking. And I just taught them, look for the pictures. It's, you know, films, it's faces in places. So get a good face, find an interesting place, and see what happens. And don't ever be afraid to ask. We had them knocking on doors, asking can they film in a church, in a Lexus place. So they learned a lot there. Yeah. So it's been a busy year, very good busy year. So you know, you need to be working all the time, you know. And then I got to work with this fantastic filmmaker called a guy called Johnny Gogan. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of him. He threw me into a river. He was brave enough, knowing that I don't really swim. And so I did another great thing with Johnny, a lovely a short film called The Curse, which was really good fun. It was kind of like a heist movie. Yeah. I wrote a short film based on a poem by Jerry Boland, and Hilary Bowen Walsh and myself, we produced it, she directed it, we acted in it, and we did it here in the house and down in a neighbour's house in Leitrim, and my wife did all the catering, my boys did all the carrying, and we had a very small crew, 3 or 4 people in the crew, shot over 2 days and edited, and it turned out really nice. I called it Great Big Whoosh of Love, and we've seen it on the big screen. It looks lovely. And what I tried to do was, I was trying to write a silent film, and I was also trying to write a love letter to my wife, because you know, she puts up with all this crap, this, you know, get out of work, some work, no money, you know. So she puts up with an awful lot of it and helps me and supports me. So I said, this is the perfect story, you know, for her. And then as we were doing it, I realised actually it's more than that. It's more almost like a love letter to our life in Leitrim. You know, all the people that we know, and you know, all the places we live, and so it became something even bigger and more personal. So it was an amazing thing to do. And I said to myself, damn it, why didn't I do it 20 years ago? You know.